Hello and welcome everybody to race 4 of the Unofficial Tour Series. Here we are on RGT Cycling for 2 races this evening. We'll be bringing you the Category A event and also the Category B event. I'll be explaining the difference between those two as we go through the racing this evening. So, event 4, and we are well into the series now. So we have currently been started off last week where we raced at Salisbury and then Croydon, and then on Tuesday this week we were over in Aberystwyth, and now today we are in Northwich and this fairly unusual looking race course, and then next week we'll be off to Durham, then into Scotland for the Motherwell circuit, and then we'll be finishing the following Tuesday at Brooklands in a very sinuous looking circuit there. So we are halfway through the series, and here's the current rankings. So this is the A class, and Raul Lopez is currently leading this classification with 208 points, just 6 points ahead of Kieran Jarvis, the winner of race 2. And these guys will be going head to head again today. The series is actually based on your 5 best results. So people like Joe Rees, Ned Bowen, Toffoli and myself there, we've all still got a chance of shooting ourselves up the leaderboard. It was quite a big field on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I missed that race, so I'm going to have to do all of the others to make sure I can get myself nicely up that leaderboard. So we're about 3 minutes out from the start of the race. And if we take a look at the B category, we can see that Edgaras Spirinodov is at the top there with 150 points, followed by Angus Smith on 125 and Stefano Brunelli in 3rd place on 86 points. So the points for the B class are slightly lower, and that allows for riders to get promoted up to the A class and carry the points over with them. So the 2 classifications, we have a split, and that is based on your British cycling category. So if you're a Cat 1 rider, then you should be in the A class, and if you're a Cat 2, 3 or 4, that's B class. And that loosely works out at also 3.8 watts per kilo as your FTP. So the stronger riders are being class A, and this creates a little bit of separation so that between the 2 events you get some nice even racing. The A field is slightly smaller, but still leads to some pretty aggressive racing and cat and mouse riding. And then the B class tends to be a little bit bigger, but still very competitive. So not far off now from the start of the race today. So today is a 35.8 kilometer race, and that is 200 meters of climbing, and it's got a start and finish line which is like an elongated figure of 8, this course. So we've got a loop at each end and then 2 straights which are close together, and yeah, this should be a fun course. You'll see the other riders as you're passing up and down the start and finish straight. And we'll be bringing you both of the categories today. So I'm going to be racing as well as commentating. So I am in the A category. Yes, they're lined up on the start line. We see that we've got Kay Jarvis is here, currently sitting in 2nd place. PDQ coach Currently sat in third place. Doesn't look like we've got the series leader with us, so possibly they're just taking a break today as we get ready to go racing. Everyone powers up, red numbers. And away we go. So we've got 25 laps to get to know this circuit. You can see me there, I'm in the black and orange kit with the orange helmet. And then in the GCN kit we've got James Melville. This is his second race in the series. He's a strong rider. And then a few other riders returning. We hit this first little climb. Everyone all together. No one's been dropped out off the start line in the Class A race. As we start to reach the crest of this little hill, looked like it peaked at 2.5%, so nothing too onerous to worry about. A couple of sharp corners. And it's a little bit downhill towards the finish line. Around that right-hander and then onto the start-finish straight. A little bit wiggly. Got a fairly clear run from that final corner up to the line for a lap of about 1.44 kilometres. So let's check in with Category B. So it looks like a good sized field again for that race. Around about 35 riders or so, and looking like most of them are in that bunch. There's Melting Follow putting in a bit of a turn in the KISS Racing Team kit there on the front of the group, working hard to try and create a bit of a gap. So it's early in the race to be attacking. There we go, A and B side by side. So we can follow all of the action from both of the races. So we are streaming across multi-platforms today. We're on YouTube, Facebook and Twitch. If you are watching on any of those channels, then please do feel free to ask a question. Always Jarvis here in Category A puts in a bit of an effort on the front. Going to catch us unaware if the group responds. Like it might just be trying to drop one or two riders by putting in a little effort. It looks like Category B are slightly ahead of Category A, and that's probably because they've got rating numbers, so they're getting a bit more from that pack dynamic. I think it might be a slightly slower race today. It is one of the longer circuits. So a little bit of a lead there, 3 of them up the road, but no need to panic. All comes back together. And in Class B then, Simon Russell just putting his nose into the wind. A couple of riders come over the top. Lots of riders there to hit the front and push things and animate the race. Simon Russell is the organiser of this series. As once again, Melting Fellow gets back on the front, creates a little bit of a gap, just making the rest of the group respond, perhaps allowing his KISS Racing teammates like Simon Russell just to sit in. Got Julian Fussell there from the Southbourne District Wheelers, the rider with the red shoulders and the black band and the yellow kit. A good mix of riders in that group, so I'm sure that will be mixing up the leaderboard later on today. Seems like they are managing to stick together pretty well in that large pack, 30 or so riders. Sometimes on a twisting, turning course like this, you can find yourself getting caught out at the back when it's the larger pack. It does seem to be getting strung out quite a bit. Partly the nature of the course, partly also that's to do with the pace at the front. As we can see Kirby there putting in a bit of an effort up this fairly long but shallow climb. Climb is probably overstating it. But this middle portion of the course, 1 to 2% little gradient, just enough to keep people honest, just enough that people at the front of the pack, as we see May in the Class A race, making a little break off the front, just enough that it would tempt people, tease people into putting in a little effort. So I think in Class A we're going to see quite a lot of cat and mouse, riders pushing off the front, other riders having to chase. The smaller field size enables that, because you don't have such a large pack to chase you down if you do go off the front. It means that energy is well spent. As we see Burden of SDW, Southbourne District Wheelers there going off the front in Class B. His teammate there, Perish just sitting in. There's no need for him to chase. But that pack size is just bringing it back. 1 versus 20. That's going to be tricky for one rider to get away. Hi Ollie. Yep, there's a herd kit. That's Hey Jarvis. Currently second in the overall, but could jump up to first place today, as our current first place rider is not in the event. That's Lopez. As I said at the top of the show, it's your 5 best results from the 7 events that count. So if you miss one, not a problem. So there's still plenty of opportunities for Lopez to come back and reclaim that spot at the top of the leaderboard. So there we see Spiridonov right in the centre shot there, with the KISS Racing team kit on, the Class B leader. In race 2, he was able to get away in a little bit of a breakaway. He was on the podium. So these comments on screen, that's on our Facebook feed. So if you are online, do check it out on Facebook, leave us a comment. Cheers, Ollie. A little bit of love there from Ollie. Yeah, that Group B, you can see they're half a kilometre up the road already compared to Group A. So they're going to be finishing a good few minutes ahead of Class A. And that's like Damon mentioned there, because they've got the better draft effect. Bigger group, more draft saving. Needs a higher cumulative speed. Now we see Burden again off the front in Class B. Mounting Fellow just behind him. Both of those putting in a good amount of time on the front. And in Class A we've got an attack from May of PDQ. He's being followed by Wojtek and Rusinek. And there's a bit of separation. So I'm having to respond here, me and Melville. Trying to get across. It looks like a few riders have been dropped, so they're not too far back. So that lap was 10 seconds quicker than the previous lap. As Jarvis comes back into contention. Airedale and Broadhead just as well, coming back in. Oh, a lack of comms because I'm trying to concentrate, making sure I don't get dropped. Lots of action in this Class A race. Attacks and counter-attacks. But now Spiridonov goes off the front in Class B, our series leader, with 10k into the race, 25k to go. Oh. Still a big group in Class B then. Gonna hunt down Spiridonov. Class A has calmed back down a little bit. Spirit off gets reeled back in Class B. As Burden gets back onto the front, putting in a lot of work. But in Class A, despite all those attacks, here's another one. The group is all still together. No one's been dropped. As May now makes another attempt at upsetting the status quo. And you need to be really alert because it doesn't take much to find yourself off the back. And even if it's 4 at the back, there could be 5 in front, and that could be the difference. 30-metre lead for May at the moment. Everyone else seems a bit content just to let him go. There's now Hepburn and Fussell and Kirby. They're leading your Class B, putting in that effort. We've seen Kirby up the front quite a bit as well. Those riders working hard. As now the Class A riders respond, using the climb just to try and close that gap down to May a little bit. As PDQ coach comes to the front, not to try and close that gap, but to try and interfere, try and slow things down for the chase to give his teammate up front a little bit more benefit. If we hit about a third of the way through the race, really is cat and mouse in Class A. Still looking like a big bunch. 20 or so in Class B there. They seem to be losing a few riders out the back occasionally. $100-metre lead now for May. There's still 22k to go. Putting out a nice, even in excess of 5 watts per kilo. This group is rolling around at 3 or 4. Not really trying to close down. Get right in amongst it there with the camera, right into the pack. So let's go take a look at Class B then, see how they're getting on. able to do what's happening in Class A and get off the front. You see Kirby there was 21st. A few riders behind them are showing the size of the pack. And that's what's making it difficult for riders to get away. So they're just going to keep taking turns on the front, setting some tempo, trying to get rid of a few more riders out the rear of the bunch. It's become a bit more of an attritional race. We're back in Class A. We now see Jarvis also off the front. As May's lead approaches 200 metres, Jarvis is trying to bridge across, and he's 50 metres ahead of the remainder of the bunch. And the bunch just having a watchful eye on these two riders. Not overly organised yet in the bunch. Not quite taking turns. But Jarvis isn't getting away. But May is. He's still extending his lead. His coach, who sat in the pack, will be happy to see that. So a lot of that washing machine effect in Class B. Riders coming through to the front, hitting the wind and falling back into the pack as their speed drops off due to the wind resistance. As Jarvis is caught in Class A. Couple of STW riders on the front working together there. They've got at least 3 riders in there. So they could be working together. The KISS racing team as well, also with 3 riders in there. Gives them options for some team tactics perhaps. They might have someone just sat in the whole time. But we have seen them taking turns. Spirit Donoff, Mounting Follow, and Russell. They've all had turns on the front. There's now Burden and Stuart's from STW putting a little bit of an effort. Red numbers there. 2 teammates trying to put in an effort to create a gap. Slowly going out. Perhaps just using that lap rider up ahead. Saw an opportunity. As Barrett tries to bridge across to them. They've got, well, Barrett's at 50 metres ahead of the bunch. He's got 20 metres close to get onto these front 2. We're putting a sustained attack here. They do well to let Barrett join. 3 riders is better than 2. They are now 100 meters ahead of the bunch. That could be dangerous halfway through, 100-meter lead. If we come through some traffic. Just getting a little bit of a draft saving off those riders. Just bunny hopping from one to the next. Barrett just not quite able to latch onto those two SDW riders. Actually getting unlapped. There you go, he tries to dig, tries to push over, but he's just not quite able to make it. He's not careful, he's going to get caught in no man's land. There we go. Contact. He's in. Those three riders now 150 meters ahead of the bunch. And that acceleration has seen some riders drop out the back. So three riders out the front, and looks like 3 or 4 riders out the back. And that chasing bunch has gone from 20 to 14 or so. That gives them less firepower to try and close down that bunch. If they work together, you'd think they should be able to do it. But it takes some people to commit. And that doesn't always happen when you're working online. Same in the category A race. May is now 500 meters up the road, putting out 5 watts per kilo. Only needs the 8 riders behind to match that for 10 seconds each, and they'd be closing that gap. As it stands, no one is doing that. And we're now over halfway into the race. Ten laps to go. We need to close 50 meters a lap. Trying to initiate things a bit here. Put in a stint. See if anyone else is going to join in. Doesn't look like it. They just rolled to the front and eased off. So those front three then have been joined by Spiridonov, who's put in a great effort to bridge 170 meters to get across to that lead group. Strong effort there. So front group of 4 now, including your series leader. they can work together for at least the next 7 or 8 laps, and then they'll fight it out for the win. But for now, they've got to work as a team. You might get a little bit of tactics from the SDW guys. They've got 2. They're in the hot seat. What can that chasing group do? Can they get organised? Can they close that gap down? Can they do a better job than Class A? Where it looks like the riders are settling for a bunch sprint for second place. May's lead seems to be going out, not coming down. Yeah, you're right, Ollie. Staying above 4.5, 5 watts a kilo. That's good numbers for that distance. This is Class A, these are Cat 1 and Elite riders. So you would expect some very strong riders here. But we should be able to match that as a bunch, taking turns. It's just not happening. So that front group of 4, still around about 200 metres off the front in Class B. They seem to be working well, taking turns on the front. I saw Spiridonov then, now it's Burden. That's good teamwork on the breakaway of 4. That chase is looking a little bit disjointed. But they could pick up the pace. There's still 8 laps to go, 12.5k. I've got to say, I think May is gone. I think with 12k to go, he's probably done. We're not going to see him now. But 200 metres in Class B, over 10k, that's doable, definitely. Burden back on the front. There's Spiridonov. He's attacking off the front. That's either brave or foolhardy. 10k to go. You'd have thought he'd do better sitting in that group. Maybe if the distance was being closed by the chase pack, worth a shot, but they were holding their lead. Just a surprising move. If you've got hold of 3 riders, and here they come. But closing back down. Some good closing there by Burden. I think if we look up to the left, we'll just see May. Going the opposite direction in the Class A race. At this point, I'd be worried about getting lapped. I like to think we're safe from that. That would be embarrassing for this group. I think we've still got a 700 metre lead before we get lapped. See the numbers, 370 or so. Must be a pretty light rider. Well, 70 kilos or so, I imagine. Maybe 75 to get that watts per kilo. Pretty consistent, never really pushing above 400 watts there. And he's not getting any auto braking because there's no riders around him. He's easing off into the corners, riding very smartly. You can see his power line just dipping into those corners. So over in Class B, looks like the chase group have just got it under 200 metres. (180 metres then. As Burden now puts in a bit of an effort off the front. That might see this group fragmenting, and that might lead to that chase group having an opportunity to come back at them. Still very early, I'd have said. The solo riders are trying to attack, but the benefit for Burden is he knows his teammate, Gertz, he's just going to sit in there. So really he's racing against two riders, not three. And Gertz is just getting a free ride. And it's up to the other two to try and pull this 40 metre back. So this is good tactics from SDW. As Barrett now tries to put in a bit of an attack, Asper-Donov, they're trying to drop Yertz here because he's not doing any work. He's just getting a free ride. So they might as well try and drop him and close that gap up to Barrett, up to Burden. So that increase in pace has just extended their lead to 250 metres. That chase group is strung out. It looks like they are trying to work, but they're not making any ground back as the laps slowly tick off. So the Class B race is about a kilometre ahead of Class A. So we will see them finish first. So saying that, May is actually probably not that far behind them, probably within a couple of 100 metres. Because now we see Rustanek put in a bit of a break in the Class A race, and the pack responds. That's a slow lap, 2 minutes 11. That's the slowest lap we've seen. The fastest lap was around about 1 minute 52. Shows how much they've eased off. Now Spurdonov. He's off the front in Class B. He's caught Burden and left him behind. And looks like he's got a nice gap of over 100 metres back to the chase in 3. So a lot of animation within that front group in Class B. So Spurdonov 120 metres off the front. And then still 200 metres from the breakaway back to the peloton here. As they've gone through a little bit of lap traffic there. That will slightly hinder the chase. Five laps to go then in both races. The breakaway is going to win in Class A. Will we get a breakaway winner in Class B? That's looking less certain at the moment. But it's getting closer. The laps tick by and the chasing group struggle to make an impression on that lead. Burden again on the front of that group. He seems to be doing the majority of the work. I know Jerks has got a good sprint. So perhaps he's just being saved to try and finish things. As May's lead in Class A goes above a kilometre. Very impressive performance. Solid riding. So Burden's dropped his teammate there, 25-metre gap. And it looks now like that chase group might be getting organised. They're only 120 metres back. 100 metres to Yertz and Barrett. That was 250 metres not that long ago. And that gap is now coming down fast. So riders like Melting Follow get off the front. Gives the pack a greater incentive to chase. Four laps to go then. Simon Russell's still in that chase group. He'll be pleased, I think, to be in that group. I think I cursed him in race 2, gave him a shout. I think I distracted him. Spurdonov there, lapping a few more riders. Still 250 metres or so ahead of that pack. 3.5 to go. So 2 solo riders up the road in both races. We know one is definitely going to make it. The other one's riding hard for that win. Burden, and yeah, they've been joined by Mounting Follow. Barrett is still there with them. That gap has stabilised at 100 metres back to the pack. They've got 2 laps left. Try and hunt down their leader. 4 of them versus 1. If they want the win, they're going to have to work hard and work together. Taking turns, get that pace line going. They haven't got time for cat and mouse. They haven't got time to be selfish and not ride. Because if they do, they might get caught. They could still lose a podium shot here. That pack is within 100 metres now. Let's zoom in on Class B. This is going to be an exciting final 2K. Spiridonov still working hard. Got a 130 metre gap. And that chase group might be getting caught. Brunelli trying to bridge across. He's bringing the pack with them. That's down to 50 metres. There's 1 lap to go. The bell is sounding in the Class B race. Brunelli now is coming across to that group of 4. They're within eyesight of the chase now. Can that 4 maintain the gap? Spiridonov is doing a great job of holding them off. He's inside the final K. And it's a 50 metre gap from the remainder of the breakaway back to the peloton. That's not much with 700 metres to go. Russell leading the chase. As they come through some lap traffic. Downhill to the line for Spiridonov. Looks like he's going to make it. Take an impressive win. He bridged across to that breakaway. He then accelerated away from the breakaway with about 8 kilometres to go. And he crosses the line solo and he takes the win And it's Barrett leading out the chase with Yates and all melting follow, just pipping him on the line for the third place. And a few seconds back to the chasing pack. And there's May taking the win for Class A. Almost a whole lap ahead of the chase group, who have been happy just to sit in and take second and third place fights. Never any real desire by this group to try and close. May did not tire. Inside a kilometre for these remaining riders. They approach the final little ramp. Ah, just couldn't get past. Hard finish. Well done to May. Convincing win. Wojtek taking second. PDQ coaching third. Oh, that was a tough finish. So there we go then. The Class B results. Edgar Spiridonov, the 10-second advantage over Phil Barrett, and then Brandon Mountain-Gallo just pipping Pushmek Yates the final podium spot, and Brunelli taking fifth, doing well after bridging late on. And then let's have a look at Class A then. Tim May, look at that, 4.84 average, 1 minute 46 ahead of the chasing group, who were all under 4. Even riding in a group, that's not going to be enough to pull back a strong ride like that by May. So just a couple seconds separating second and ninth at the end. So we'll have a look, see what that's. Oh, some impressively low watts per kilo there by Airedale. So that would have shaken up the leaderboard for the series. Jarvis, who was there, he's going to be pushed. He's probably going to jump to the top, I think, as Lopez did not ride today. Have a good result for Melville. And PDQ coach as well, who is third in the overall series, maybe closing that gap to Jarvis, who started the day in second. So some exciting racing in both events. Class B, very animated again. So I averaged 40 kilometers an hour, just to put that in perspective, riding in a group. and still managed to finish almost 2 minutes down on Tim May riding solo. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a hard ride, despite being in a group. The next event will be on Tuesday next week at 5:30, which I think is Durham, and then a week today off to Motherwell, and then the final round, round 7, will be down at Brooklands. So keep an eye out next week. There'll be a couple more streams. We'll be riding and broadcasting. Thanks to ZMS for doing the camera work, and thanks to rgtdb.com. Check it out for the results and events, not just for this series, but for all racing and group rides on RGT. Go have a look at that. And I will catch you all next time. Cheers, everyone.